Good evening, fight fans. It is I, your mandated reporter, and frankly, mortified Mr. Mark Radulich, and this is a History of Heavyweight Boxing Extra. We are going to be doing a watch-along to the much ballyhooed Jerry Quarry, or as I like to call him, Velvet Pants, versus heavyweight contender and a man who fought everybody, Ron Lyle, which took place on February 9th, 1973 at the Mecca of sports and sports entertainment, Madison Square Garden. And of course, joining me for this extra, because I'm guessing he didn't have a date tonight, so he decided to take me on a date, back in time to the history of boxing. Ladies and gentlemen, my partner in these affairs, the punchy pugilist, Pat Mullin. How do you do, sir?
Well, and since you're my date tonight, Mark, let me treat you like a date, okay?
Oh, goodness.
Thanks for the times that you've given me. The memories are all in my mind. And now that we've come to the end of our rainbow, something I must say out loud. You're once, twice, three times a lady.
Oh, Pat.
And I love you. Yes, you're once, twice, three times a lady. And I love you.
Well, like I tell the ladies at work, we're all just a little bit gay. That was wonderful, Pat. It's truly a joy to be treated to one of your serenades.
Yeah, once I've had 6 daiquiris, I pretty much know where my voice stands.
Well, that was lovely. Well, let's get down to business. We just talked about the WBA scramble for Ali's title, in which Jerry Quarry lost in the finals. But Jerry Quarry quickly became one of my favorites, and not just because of his velvet pants that he likes to wear, his velvet trunks, because he's a hell of a fighter. So when you said, hey, you want to do one of these extras tonight, one of these watch-alongs, and you gave me a choice, I said, since we just talked about Jerry Quarry, why not take a look at one of his other fights? And you picked Ron Lyle on February 9th, 1973 from MSG. Why, Pat? Why?
It's a very interesting fight, and it's a very good fight to watch. Quarry, at this point in 73, he's gone through the WBA heavyweight tournament. He did not win it. He goes ahead and fights Joe Frazier for the other half of the heavyweight championship in the fight of the year from 1969. He does not win that. He fights Muhammad Ali twice and does not win. But every other fight, with the exception of a very controversial loss to George Chuvalo where a count was misjudged, he's won to that point. And a lot of them by knockouts. So Jerry is very much still in the mix in terms of the top heavyweight contenders of the day. And in this one, he's facing a guy with a tremendous reputation and an unblemished record of 19-0 in Ron Lyle, who has come from the Denver, Colorado penal system, where Ron almost died in the joint after being stabbed. He took up boxing in there and became what they thought was really a very good prospect at 6'3" and 225 pounds, which for this time is very big. A tremendous puncher, and he's worked his way up the ranks against a lot of familiar names. He's knocked out Manuel Ramos, who had a title challenge against Joe Frazier, Jack O'Halloran, who most people know as Non from Superman 2, Scrap Iron Johnson, Vicente Rondon, Buster Mathis, who we'll be talking about in the future, and Louis Perez, who is a George Foreman early conqueror, but knocked a lot of these guys out with relative ease, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, and here he's making his Garden debut against the venerable Jerry Quarry in a fight where, if he wins, he's very likely to get a title shot.
Let's talk a little bit more about Ron Lyle. He was born February 12th, 1941. He passed away November 26, 2011. And he competed from 71 to 80 and in 1995. He, as you mentioned, challenged unsuccessfully for the undisputed world heavyweight title to Muhammad Ali in 75. Lyle was known for his punching power, crowd-pleasing fighting style, as well as courage and determination inside the ring. He has notable wins, as you mentioned, over, as you said, Buster Mathis, Bonavena, Jimmy Ellis, Vicente Rodon, Ernie Shavers, Joe Bugner, and Scott DeLue. But he's best known for his slugfest against George Foreman in '76, which won Fight of the Year in Ring Magazine. By the time he retires, he'll have a record of 43-7-1, and he goes out a winner in his last 4 fights against Bruce Johnson, Tim Pollard, Ed Strickland, and Dave Slaughter, all of which by stoppage, all in the year 1995.
He was attempting a comeback in the vein of George Foreman at that point in time. Basically, after those fights, even though he won, it was recommended to him that he should not continue on. And he was basically convinced that, like, okay, I should stop. I've won these fights. There's no reason to put myself at risk. He really, more than anything in that comeback, wanted a rematch with George Foreman, which just never got to fruition, and as a result, retired again.
Yeah, 1980 is the last year was his last active year before this comeback, and he has after a loss in '79 to Lynn Ball, he beats Al Newman by TKO, George O'Mara by KO, and then it's the Jerry Cooney fight at the Nassau Coliseum, my old stomping grounds, on October 24th of 1980. I was 4 years old at that time. He lost by KO in the first round, at which point he said no mas. So, let's get to it, Pat. Let's talk about this fight. So we're in the watch together room here. I'm going to go ahead and hit play, and here we go. You ready?
We are watching together.
All right. Going to mute here. So, anything more about this fight before we get into it? Why, of all the fights you could have picked, you landed on this one? Of all the fighters we've talked about up to this point in the series, why this one jumped out as you as what you might want to talk about while downing daiquiris on a Friday night?
Well, you would become a fan of Jerry Quarry via the viewing of the WBA tournament that we had, and I figured if you want to see one of Quarry's, better performances, more spirited performances against a great fighter, and how he stacked up, this is a great fight and a great example where
so his back's not hurting him. His back's not hurting him in this fight. Then
he does not have a broken bone in his back in this fight.
Oh, hot dog!
So
but he's got great mutton chops. Do you see those?
He's got some hefty chops and some great comb-over bangs.
Yes, he does.
We're in the 70s, folks.
Yeah, he's looking very 70s. My goodness, you could call him Ringo.
But again, you're talking even despite that, Jerry still remained one of the most popular fighters in boxing, and he's still seen as a very viable heavyweight, which is why Lyle's people took this fight, because if Lyle's able to beat Jerry Quarry, then there's pretty much the guarantee of a title shot at this point in time against George Foreman. And why not take this fight? Quarry's a little bit older. He's had some very rough performances against the elite level heavyweights, and he's not at his prime. Let's see what we can do. This is a good fight for us. If we beat this, we get a title shot. And there's no reason really to believe at this point in time that Lyle can't beat Jerry, because Ron is 19-0, almost all of them by knockout. And again, Jerry's coming off of a time where he had a really lackluster performance against Muhammad Ali in their rematch. But again, a lot of that's overlooked because people don't understand that on the undercard of that fight, Jerry's younger brother Mike fought Bob Foster for the light heavyweight championship, and Bob stretchered Mike out with his knockout. So Jerry's head was not in that fight. And he, like we said, he gave a lackluster performance against Ali, and he's had some good wins since then, but he's looked at as a heavy underdog against the huge, hard-punching Lyle, who's unbeaten, and Jerry is at this point in time thought to have already seen his best days passing.
All right, the fighters are gearing up here. They're having announcements made, and they're staying loose. A lot of pacing, a lot of flicking of the fists. Just trying to stay loose, stay warm, and getting ready to get into action here. One of the things that I wanted to ask you, as we're talking about Ron Lyle, this is the second person that we've talked about in this series that came out of a prison boxing system. Just a guess. I don't know if you know the answer to this, but you seem pretty good with detail knowledge, trivia knowledge. How many successful, let's stick with heavyweights, how many successful heavyweights came out of, by the way, Ron Lyle, convicted of second-degree murder, came out of the prison boxing system?
It's not just heavyweights. There's a lot of guys who came out of the prison boxing system. There's a number of heavyweights who did, and, Ron is not so shy among them. There's a few others who did time and came out and decided to become professional fighters. More notable ones are Bernard Hopkins, who became one of the great middleweights of all time. You've got, James Scott, who actually fought at light heavyweight and had fights in Rahway State Prison in New Jersey. The sad part is that so many prisons have canceled their boxing systems, and it was proven to be a good rehabilitation for a lot of these guys, including Lyle, including Hopkins, including Scott to a certain extent. And they got rid of these things where they taught guys how to either be fighters, cut men, or trainers. And it's a shame because there was a lot of positives that came out of that particular program that they did in prisons.
Yeah, I would be somebody who, having worked in the penal system as a mental health professional, would tell you that giving somebody a career path is paramount. Even if there's somebody who's like a lifer or whatever, or doing some serious time, I think when you give them something to work towards, it's rehabilitative and it's actually helpful for their mental health. I know a lot of the counter arguments where it's animalistic, but all right, we can talk about that at a later date or if the fight winds down a bit, because we are in round one and here we go, and Lyle came storming out of the corner.
As he should. He is a big puncher looking to get that shot in as fast as he can. And Jerry is not engaging fully, although he just threw a good left hook there that maybe caught Lyle on the end of it. Ron's fight is he's going to want to land those big power shots and turn it into a brawl. Quarry, as we've seen, he has a tendency to brawl even when it's not good for him, as he lands a quick left hook right hand. But he can counterpunch when he wants to and use it effectively.
Jerry is looking to stick and move. You can tell by the movement in the feet. He's not planting. He's not. He's not going for power punches at this point. Although now he's tied up with Lyle, and Lyle's giving him the business in the breadbasket. But Quarry seems to be looking to want to score hits on Lyle, but he isn't looking for a big knockout. Lyle, however, is definitely kind of planting that power foot forward so that he can lay in. He is not, you can tell from Lyle's stance, he is not wanting to go the distance with this guy tonight. He wants to put him away early.
Yeah, and Jerry's, again, looking for opportunities frequently for that little short left hook as Lyle drops in. And so far, it's been the best punch of the round that we've seen land with any consistency.
Yeah, Lyle, kind of a look of frustration there. Like, stay still, white boy.
And while he backs up, Jerry jumps towards him and tries to throw combinations.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell Lyle's being given looks he hasn't seen yet before.
Yeah, Jerry knows he can't go punch for punch with this guy, so he is looking to be evasive, counterpunch, win this thing on the cards, which he's currently doing. Ooh, nice uppercut, and then a foul.
Another short uppercut.
Yeah, with a hook from Quarry. Quarry just ate a big left from Lyle.
And again, Quarry eats the left. He doesn't want to taste that power in full from Lyle more than one at a time. So he makes the move to get out, circle away, and then you see what he does. He charges right at Ron Lyle and forces Lyle to back up.
So, at this stage of the game, how was Lyle's wind? He's a big, muscular man. He's carrying a fair amount of weight on a rather big frame, and I'm curious, does he have the gas to go the distance against a guy who we saw was pretty well conditioned in the 67-68 tournament?
Well, the funny thing is Lyle was brought up pretty quick, and part of that is that after he had about 5 fights, he was fighting 10-rounders, or at least scheduled 10-rounders, and he landed a good right hand over Jerry's jab that time. But he had gone 10 rounds with Manuel Ramos, which was seen as a big deal as we end round one and we go to a Schaefer beer commercial, which we should put the sound on for. So I'm going to do that right now.
Okay, you do that.
The new guy has to sing the Schaefer beer jingle.
Oh, here we go. There he is, right on top of the keg.
Have when you're having more than one. Sing.
Scatman Crothers tells him to sing.
Is that who that is?
No, I'm just being,
Okay.
In this man's world, for people who are having fun.
Oh, look at that.
Schaefer is the one beer to have when you're having more than one.
Well done.
All right? Not bad.
And I'm cutting the sound off at that point, but I figured we deserve to hear that part of it.
That's really funny. All right, so let's go over to part 2 of this. This is broken up into 6 parts here. Round 2.
And we were talking about Lyle's win, but Lyle had gone 10 rounds with Manuel Ramos, which is a big deal at that point in time. And he didn't run out of gas. He didn't lose the last few rounds after building up an early lead. So Lyle's a good conditioned athlete. Not known for the gas tank problems that some wild punchers have, because if you look at his technique versus a George Foreman or an Ernie Shavers, he is a strong puncher, but he's a little more measured in his technique.
Some patting away of each other's punches there.
And I think we both scored round 1 for Jerry Quarry.
We did.
And it opens up pretty fearlessly with a left hook to the body.
Yeah, Lyle, he's not uncomposed or anything, but he there's an air of frustration. I don't know what he thought he was going to get going into this, but he's getting more than he thought he was going to get going into this from Jerry Quarry.
Well, I think maybe they thought it would have been the simplistic Quarry who had fought against Joe Frazier, who went just head-to-head and banged with him, and lost on cuts, or maybe they thought that was going to happen. But what they're getting is the Jerry Quarry who more we saw against Thad Spencer.
Very loose, you really using a lot of the evasive techniques, rolling shoulders, staying light on his feet. This is the Jerry Quarry that I like, actually. I like a Jerry Quarry who actually exudes boxing technique and isn't going punch for punch, because I don't think that's a fight he can win.
And I would agree. I don't think that's the right way for Jerry to fight this fight. I think that plays into Ron's hands, and Ron is looking for those opportunities to create a firefight. And every so often he's able to get that big shot in when Jerry gets a little bold. But you see a good counter right hand over the top from Quarry, and then a feint, and shifts away and forces Lyle back on his toes. That's a good strategy as he pops that lead right again. Jerry's doing a lot of unorthodox things here.
Ooh.
Oh, and he gets caught with a left hook that time by Lyle.
He did, and he didn't like any of it. And he now see Lyle smelled blood there. He landed that one punch, and I think he was like, "Ooh, now's a chance to press my attack." Because up to this point, Quarry had been doing a great job of circling away from Lyle, kind of dancing in, landing a few good scoring punches, and then dancing out again. And Lyle had him backed up into the corner. Quarry didn't like any of it.
No, he tried to counter effectively off, but Lyle was able to outpunch him in that exchange, and eventually Quarry tied him up and was able to reassert the circle of the ring in the center.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's got Lyle back towards the ropes. And he starts opening up a little bit, trying to find the home for that left hook.
Yep. Quarry has to fight here. He can't just be evasive. He has to mix it up with Lyle. What he can't do, and what I see him doing now, oof.
And Lyle
was after the bell.
Swipe after the bell. Jerry doesn't like that.
Yeah, Quarry almost let his temper get the best of him there.
He is Irish.
He'd have been in the right. I mean, that was clearly after the bell. I mean, the man had turned away. And
a little exchange here where Lyle got that left hook through just a moment before Quarry's did, but it was a good punch.
Yeah, it was. To Quarry's credit, he stayed in the mix when he got it. It shook him up a bit, but, he didn't run away. He didn't try to circle out. No, he stayed in the mix.
He got caught with a low blow on the other side of it, and you can see Gil Clancy just basically telling him in the corner what to do, and telling him not to stay in the pocket with Lyle. But I still think it was overall a pretty good round for Quarry, other than getting caught with that left hook. He still made Lyle miss. He still landed some body shots and still opened up with that straight right counter punch.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking at Lyle's body, bit of heavy breathing. That's why I talked about his gas tank. You know, he seems like, I know he said he fought a bunch of 10-rounders, but I don't think he expected this to go long, and so he's not conserving as much energy maybe as he should.
And this is Lyle's debut on the big stage. This is Madison Square Garden. This is the first time he's fought here. He's had a lot of fights in his native Denver, some out in California, but it's a different animal when you fight in Madison Square Garden in the 70s against one of the most popular fighters in the game.
And you're on TV, not to mention. Yeah.
And you saw Lyle did a little bit of the George Foreman mummy defense there, fully extending his arms and kind of swatting, but it didn't really do him any good.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, and I didn't like it.
And he gets hit with a counter right hand on the way backing straight up by Quarry.
I like Quarry's jab. You know, he jab kind of moves
Something
away.
he doesn't utilize often enough.
No. He certainly needed to make better use of it in the fights we saw previously to this.
And he lands a good counter right hand inside of Lyle's attempted hook.
One of the things that Lyle seems to have done, and I'm wondering if he got instruction from the corners, is they told him, go for Quarry's body. Take his legs from him, take his breath, take his speed, and the rest will follow. And I like that strategy. I think a guy like this, who's clearly very conditioned, he's doing a lot of bouncing around, a lot of movement, you got to take a swing from him.
Yeah, and Lyle also is a little more measured in his pace. He's looking for opportunities to back Jerry up and then unload, as opposed to just taking some free swings here and there.
Yeah, because one thing about this fight I'm noticing, Lyle does not care about Quarry's punches.
No, but he did get rocked a little bit with a right hand there that forced him to back off when he had Jerry on the ropes. And now Jerry, you can see Jerry, just the veteran move to take control of an overhook, basically in MMA terms, of the arm and spin away. And double jab that time.
Nice double jab from Quarry. Love this kid's speed. I mean, it's no Sugar Ray Leonard or anything, but, you know, this is heavyweight, and this guy's like the Flash in comparison.
Well, that happens when you're 190 pounds and fighting guys who are 220 and 230.
Yes, sir. Nice
good
hook
left
there.
hook here. And now they trade right hands. And Quarry, when he gets hit, his reaction is to just hit back harder.
Yeah.
Which is what endeared him to the public so much.
Yeah, and it makes for a good action fight. Not a great strategy for Quarry.
And a good combination, right to the body, left hook to the head. Lyle does not answer. Ron is just kind of looking for answers here that he doesn't feel too confident in as we go to the break at the end of the round. And he just is really confused by Jerry's movement and his speed. And you see there, he tries to swipe in with the left hand. Jerry kind of just deftly moves to the side.
That looked low. Quarry delivered what looked to be like a body shot, but that looked like it was at least on the belt line.
I think it was low. And now this is where Lyle kind of wants to fight. In close quarters, Quarry's back is against the ropes. He shoots a right hand over the top and another.
Yeah, if I'm Lyle, I want to bully this guy. You have so much size, and he's using defense to his advantage. You got to take that away from him, crowd him.
And one of the things is that you see Lyle with the extended hands outward, which, again, we've talked about being a George Foreman type of strategy. Jerry's very good at hand checking and hand fighting when Lyle extends those out. Jerry usually just finds a way to find what punch he's throwing. But now Lyle's picked it up a little bit, and he's throwing some straight shots as opposed to wide winging, and he's tagging Jerry every so often. And both guys land low blows at that point, and Ron with another one.
Yeah, these guys are taking turns punch each other in the dick. They're this close to Rochambeauing.
Well, you know, the rule of thumb is if you get hit low, your reaction needs to be, I'm going to hit him low right back, or else he's got a mental edge.
Sure.
And there's a good right hand over the top by Jerry as Ron starts extending his hands again. And now when they're in close, that's when Lyle's got to do work, but he's content to throw one and take one.
Yeah, there was a good uppercut he delivered in the clinch there. Up tight and close. My problem is he doesn't, as you said, there's no follow-through. So he hits him, and it's almost like he's shocked that he scored, and then in that moment, Quarry is able to return fire or back away. Right now, Quarry's giving him the business.
He's throwing combinations, stepping one way or the other after the last punch he throws, and Lyle is not able to answer because Quarry's not standing there in front of him.
Yeah, I mean,
and there's another low blow.
Quarry's definitely winning on the scoreboard. I mean, he's got to be landing more punches than Lyle. I mean, I'm sure this is not a great, an easy night for Quarry in there because Lyle's hitting him with some like that one, that left, man. Ugh, every time.
But again, he's the thing that made Jerry so and he gets hit with a right left. When he gets hit, though, he does try to answer even if he doesn't land, and he's taking some good shots here.
Mm-hmm.
Lyle another straight right hand inside.
We are, I think, in round 4, and Lyle is not at a clear advantage over Quarry at all. Like, anytime he starts to get to the tipping point, Quarry fires back. And then when Lyle is quiet, Quarry is landing a lot of punches. I mean,
Ron backed him up to the ropes to finish that round, where he should have a pronounced advantage. And instead, what we saw was Jerry hustling and throwing combinations and scoring, where, again, he's throwing 3 to 4 punches at a time versus Lyle's 1, maybe 2, and that's why he's able to close the exchanges.
We talk about this with MMA. When we when we do alternative commentary for MMA, it's one of the things that Robert and I and you and I have talked about, which is we don't love the one punch at a time approach. Even, and again, going back to MMA, if you're going to throw a punch, let it be the setup for something else. Throw a kick, go throw a takedown, something like that. With the boxing, one punch at a time, unless you have like a crazy power punch, which is a once in a while thing, it's not going to get you very far. Not with a guy who is a journeyman, or a high-level elite fighter. And we are starting round 5. Lyle is inching towards Quarry. They immediately tie up. Quarry, again, circling, looking for opportunities to flick that jab.
The finale of that round, both guys expended a lot of energy, so it's not a surprise to see this round starting off a little bit slower.
Yeah, it's never a good sign when they immediately tie up. What I was saying, I know you had to step away for a minute, that I don't love the one-punch approach. A punch, if you're going to use a punch just to throw it, it needs to be setting up something else. You have to have something else in the chamber. And, just to throw it and then walk away, that's not how you... unless you throw a crazy power punch, like a once-in-a-lifetime power punch, you're not going to get very far with an elite fighter.
No, and you're talking about two of the best guys and arguably the best class of heavyweight the heavyweight division has ever seen. And again, Quarry throws a short combination, and his immediate instinct is to move after he throws, not be there for Lyle to open up after that happens. And Lyle kind of winging wildly on the ropes. Now you can see the signs of frustration. He had Quarry against the ropes, and he led with an uppercut. That's not a punch that's going to land.
Yeah, uppercut typically, unless you're in close, you're in the phone booth, that's one that ends a combination, not starts it.
And you can see, again, they tied up briefly. When they tie up, Quarry is very keen to grab the outer portion of Ron's arms and immediately get up on his toes and shift all of his weight to force Ron against the ropes so that he's not trapped. And this isn't a tremendously active round in comparison to what we've seen. Now we're seeing a little bit more opening up from the two guys, but again, you're seeing a lot of technique versus a lot of raw strength.
Mm-hmm. You also see, Ron feels tired to me watching this. The amount of tying up he's doing, the amount of clinch fighting, it might be partially strategy, like we were talking about, just wanting to bully him and get him in close. But again, I've been watching his movements, watching him very closely, and he definitely sucks wind at times.
And even in close, he's being out hustled. Quarry gets that overhook. Now Lyle landed a good shot, but Quarry comes back with two, and that's been the big difference. Is Lyle loads up on that one shot, and he doesn't seem to have a lot left after it that allows Jerry to throw combinations. You saw a good right uppercut, left hook combination there that may have hurt Lyle because Quarry's opening up, and Lyle's not throwing anything in return.
Yeah, he's doing that hunched over defensive stance, which I don't love, and he's just moving. He's not throwing any punches.
As we start the next round, again, now they're touching, and trying to see if they can land something. Each guy's landed one good heavy left hand.
Good uppercut there from Quarry in close. A little behind the ear hook there from Lyle. I'll tell you, Quarry's hanging tough with him. Kid's no pushover. I'll tell you, though, I'm very disappointed, Pat. He's not wearing velvet shorts.
He's not. After the dawn of the 70s, he pretty much stuck to the traditional two low blows there from Lyle. No warning from Tony Perez. Stuck to the traditional Everlast style of trunks and wore Kelly green for his Irish heritage.
Everyone's got to have a gimmick. Yeah, this ref has really not interacted with these fighters at all.
Like, Tony Perez is not a good official.
He's like not really separating them. Not that they're clinching too much to where you'd have to get in there, but like I almost forgot he was in the ring.
No, but there's some notable fights where he really drops the ball pretty repeatedly. So it just so happens he's in this one. And now you see Quarry with feints push Lyle back, and Lyle going backward does not punch. Although he snaps off a good jab there.
Looked like Lyle in the midst of that movement threw a punch that where he was aiming for Quarry's knees. I know he wasn't, but it was just such a lazy, not a meaningful punch. Little touch on the waist there from Lyle. You know, in some aspects, it's kind of a dirty fight.
It is. There's a lot of clinching. There's a lot of low blows. There's a lot of pushing and pulling inside. And we see them inside again. But again, how does the exchange finish? Quarry turns him and lands a left hook to the head, left hook to the body. The old Mickey Ward special. And Quarry doubling up on the right hand with the body shot, head shot combination. Now, the funny thing is, as we watch this fight, it wouldn't be sanctioned today because Quarry weighs under 200 pounds, and Lyle Quarry lands a low blow and then a good right hand to the body. Lyle is well north of 200 pounds, which would mean they would be fighting in the cruiserweight and heavyweight divisions, respectively.
Mm-hmm. What was the minimum weight for heavyweight back then?
Anybody over 175 pounds.
Oh, okay.
And Lyle with a series of low blows, no warning from Tony Perez again.
Yeah.
Now he's telling both guys to keep it up, but we could have used that warning about 5 rounds ago as Quarry lands a left hook and an uppercut inside.
I tell you, Quarry keeps unloading on Lyle, and Lyle's eating a lot of punches and looks tired as shit. You just heard him. That was a big exhale. Big exhale from the big man.
Well, you know, the funny thing is the more you get hit, you get a little tired of it after a certain point in time.
Sure.
And it takes a lot out of you.
Well, you know, everyone thinks, and look, I love a good knockout as much as anybody, but everyone thinks like, oh, boxing is about hitting the other guy as hard as you can, you know, but you can absolutely win a fight on the scorecards. And I think as long as you keep a pace and you're attacking, I'm okay with a guy getting in the mix, scoring hits, but none of them are knockout blows. I'm fine with this. And that's what we're seeing from Jerry Quarry.
And it's not as though he's throwing pity-pat punches. He's putting his body into a lot of these as soon as he sees the opportunity is there.
Absolutely.
It's just he's a smaller guy against a very large heavyweight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, this has been the round 7 we're going into. There has been a lot of action in this fight, and I'm not complaining. I just like the layman expectation is, you know, you just brawl and hit with all your might. But this is the sport of kings, and this is the kind of thing we talk about on our series about how it's important to have technique and actually box. It's not tough man. It's not bare knuckle. It's not bum fight. It's boxing. And speaking of boxing, Quarry laying in those combinations on Lyle. Lyle doesn't seem to want any more Jerry Quarry. I think mentally he's kind of checked out.
As soon as you see Lyle take a backward step, that's when Quarry really turns on the gas and really loads up on his punches because he knows he's not facing a strong counter coming back at him while somebody's moving backward.
Yeah, I think his people told him this was going to be, a walkover, a showcase. This is how you get the big bucks, buddy. And so he expected to bully this kid, and he got more than he bargained for. It's all in the body language.
There's also, I know they used to sillily call it UFC jitters, where a mixed martial arts fighter would make his debut in the octagon and freeze. This is his first time at the Mecca of boxing, Madison Square Garden. Nationally televised fight, and Quarry rips a hook to the body in an overhand right.
It's a tough break for Ron. I mean, this is your opportunity, and it's slipping away while you're being punched in the face.
And earlier in this fight, good combination by Quarry inside. Earlier in this fight, one of Jerry's moves he would feint the right hand over the top. Lyle would freeze a little bit, and he'd throw a good left hook to the body. That's been paying dividends right now because he's been able to out-hustle Lyle and throw 4 punches to Lyle's 1.
Lyle's best punch of the round so far, sort of a scraping hook. Didn't do a tremendous amount of damage. Looked nice, though. And
now you see Quarry getting bold and going head-to-head with Lyle, which is maybe not in his best interest, but he's winning the exchanges right now.
Yeah, well, Lyle is, a punching bag with arms right now. So if you're Quarry, why wouldn't you press your advantage? I mean, look, a one punch can change things on a dime, and I get that. But if you're Joe Quarry, and you don't want to be in there long enough for this guy to get his win back, and suddenly find the button on your face.
No, but there's an old saying, and George Foreman was a big proponent of it, is that double right hand by Quarry and a left hook. You don't follow a puncher because a puncher will lead you into a trap because eventually they will plant their feet and throw. And somebody with the power of Lyle has the power to change that fight on one punch.
Agreed. One thing Lyle is not doing, he seems to abandon this, is he's not going after Quarry's body anymore. He seems to just kind of occasionally throw some sort of pawing power punch, something to just back Quarry off. But he's having trouble, I think, getting enough wind behind his punches. And Quarry's lighting him up every chance he gets. Hey, another Schaefer beer commercial. I wonder if they knew who their audience was for this fight.
I'm pretty sure as I watch it now, they do.
You know what I loved about this era of boxing that we were watching? Whenever it was a televised fight and we'd get commercials. I need a cigarette commercial now. Back when men were men and the sheep were frightened. Round 8.
And because this is a heavyweight title elimination bout, it is scheduled for 12 rounds.
About when did we shift away from 15-rounders?
That would be 1982, 1983.
Okay.
And again, you see Lyle doing a lot of pawing as Quarry keeps giving him different looks from side to side. And Ron is really kind of, at this point, just looking for some kind of answer off of one punch. He landed a good hook in an exchange, but
look at that. Just that overhand right. He's looking to club this kid. Just doesn't want this to go on any further. He's looking for a lucky punch, hit him in the butt and do something, And
the answer again is Quarry, as soon as there's an opportunity, buries one into Lyle's midsection.
Lyle keeps looking at Quarry like, please stop running away from me. Stand still for Pete's sake. It's just such. You might look at this as like, this isn't like the most well lit fight. How can you see in his eyes? But I'm looking closely, and Lyle, if he had had a gun, would have just shot Quarry by now. Maybe not in the face, maybe in the knees. But definitely getting sick of the movement.
One guy wants to stand and have Rock'em Sock'em robots, and the other guy wants to hit the guy, move to the side, and hit him again, just where he can't be hit in return.
Yeah. Yes, one guy is boxing, the other guy is clubbing.
But he's clubbing successfully right now because Jerry's been willing to stand inside with him, and Lyle's been able to land some good power shots finally in succession.
God, if you're in Lyle's corner, you have to be pulling your hair out, screaming, "Go for the..." There it is, right in the dick. What I was going to say was, go for the body. He missed it by by a yard or so.
If you're in Lyle's corner, you can't only solely be telling him to go for the body. You also have to tell him to bully Jerry and push him against the ropes and lean on him and mix your punches up because he's just doing too many things right now to Lyle that Lyle has no answer for and isn't able to counteract because he's not well schooled enough to do it. Jerry's been able to get off combinations inside, outside, mix it up right now, and he can even trade with Lyle and get the better of the exchanges. You see there, big left hook from Quarry rocks Lyle.
That was after a handful of double rights.
And now he goes to the body with the left and right, overhand right, left hook.
Yeah, Lyle was saved by the ropes. He went straight back, and had it been another foot away, he'd have been on his back.
And
Lyle's
Lyle
fighting
keeps
out.
trying to fight back.
Yeah, Lyle's fighting out of the corner, but I'll tell you what, Jerry won't give him an inch.
And the
God
round
damn it!
will end
Another
on that.
low blow from Lyle. At this point, just kick him. Just walk in there and kick him right in the balls.
I don't see why you wouldn't, since Tony Perez isn't going to do anything as usual.
Hey, stiff warning for you.
There's the replay of that big left hook that landed, drove Lyle right into the ropes. And had the ropes not been there, Lyle would have been on the seat of his pants.
Yes. He'd have been sitting in the front row, eating popcorn, wondering where his pants are. Ugh. Another one on the belt line, but that one was from Quarry. Digging lefts and rights. My goodness. What a round. I haven't been totally keeping up with the scorecard, but I don't see any one of these rounds going to Lyle, and that was almost a 10-8.
I think there's one, maybe two that were borderline that you could have scored for Ron based on just how heavy his punches were. But I think Jerry is overwhelmingly ahead right now.
Yeah, not a good night for Ronnie Lyle.
Although he's trying to make up for it in round 9. He starts off with an uppercut and a hook inside, and Jerry's content to tie him up, but then he works his body on the way out.
And Quarry, not to be biased, but Quarry looks pretty fresh still. I don't see a whole lot of heavy breathing from him, and not a lot of sighing. He's still in there. This guy, this guy's got the cardio. He's got the gas.
Yeah, you're at least at this point in time, you're not going to beat Jerry by being in better condition than him. That'll come when he signs his sponsorship deal with Miller Lite.
Don't make me laugh. It hurts.
Not a joke.
Someone needs to pull. I'm sure it's not. Someone needs to pull up Jerry Quarry shorts, though.
Well, he's been getting hit low a lot, so that tends to make your shorts drop a little bit when Lyle's glove is dragging them down.
Fair enough.
And
if this goes any further, he's going to end up getting pantsed. Ooh, nice uppercut from Lyle.
Now on the inside, they're trading, and that's not in Jerry's best interest, but he's doing it anyway. And when you ask why, it's because he's Irish. And that's what we do.
His shots are askance and all over the place. Front up,
but at the same time, he's been trading punches inside and getting the better of it with Ron Lyle.
Ron bullies him into the ropes. Quarry comes out punching.
That was a wicked right hand to the body, and Lyle responds with an uppercut. Quarry with a double left hand, and now they're trading in center ring, and now Lyle's getting the better of it.
Yeah, Quarry has decided this late in the fight that he can, whatever Lyle's going to throw at him, he can take it. So he'll just stay in the pocket.
And at that point, he threw about 5 punches unanswered. And there's that left hook to the body again.
Yeah, he's not really fearing Lyle's power at this point. I guess he figures that train left the station a few rounds ago, and at this point, he's just there to punch on. And I'm wondering if he thinks, eventually I can break this guy down, this big palooka, and I'll get a knockout. Just steady working on him.
To the body at every chance he gets.
Nice.
And that time he threw an uppercut from way outside.
Yeah, Lyle threw like a flicking uppercut. See, he's scoring on Quarry. There's not a lot of mustard on those punches, but at least he's putting himself on the scoreboard. These guys are racking up landed punches. Not a lot of defense late in this fight.
No, this would be a CompuBox dream. And we end the round on that exchange as we go to pool legend Willie Mosconi.
And another Schaefer beer commercial. No cigarettes? What the hell, man?
Well, Schaefer's the beer to have if you're having more than one.
Fair enough. Round 10. Some dancing, some juking and jiving from all man Quarry. Old velvet pants. And Lyle finally has some energy. He threw a nice combination there. Lyle showing some signs of life. Both of them content to punch each other on the belt line. Yeah, this is just a back and forth. See, Lyle's getting the fight he wants now. Now we're doing Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Because Quarry, I think, wants to circle. He wants to shuffle. But then Lyle is actually scoring some punches, and he doesn't want him to go unanswered. So Lyle's actually baiting him into wild exchanges.
And again, he can get Quarry cornered, but instead of working when he's cornered, he just doesn't seem to have it. Although Lyle with a good three-punch combination there landed, and Quarry's best response to the turn, although he goes back to the double left hook.
So tell me, without giving away the ending, what was the buzz on this fight after? Was this a fight that the press and the fans were really into? Was this one that was frustrating for people? What was the buzz?
It was one of those fights where it was like, hey, we've undersold this guy, and maybe we didn't give this guy his due respect. Because, again, the winner of this fight, which was projected to be one guy, was projected to propel him into a title fight. And when that happens, it doesn't necessarily mean the other guy who wins is due for a title fight.
Right.
So, we see a little bit of that play out, and we'll get more into that at the end of the fight as to why things went the way they did. But what we've been seeing for the last 30 seconds is Quarry consistently backing up Lyle, and now he's opening up even more, although Lyle with a good little sneak uppercut inside. But Quarry just immediately reasserting himself with multiple combinations.
I love Quarry's footwork, I guess would be the best way to describe it. He's got so much bounce in this step. And we're late into this fight, man. Like modern day heavyweight boxing, if it goes this long, the pep in the step is gone. And Quarry's still bouncing. It looks like my son out there on the trampoline.
And he hit a left hook that shook Lyle again. Lyle actually stumbled and went backwards.
Good right from Lyle and Quarry. For every one good hit Lyle lands, Quarry answers with 4 or 5. It's amazing.
And again, what he's doing when he leans on the inside, when there's that fight on the inside, he leans another right hand, is he's able to judge where Lyle's going to go by shifting his head onto Lyle's shoulder and feeling where the shift in the weight's coming from Lyle's punches. So as soon as one weight shifts one way, Jerry's usually able to tell, and he can dip under the right hand that's coming or block the left and come back with 2 or 3 punches of his own. And for as tired as Quarry looks in his corner right now, he's still coming out and just getting up on his toes, moving, and throwing as many punches as he can. Lyle, on the other hand, he's not doing that. He's breathing heavy. He's getting his back rubbed. He really looks the more tired of the two by far. And it's evident in his punches where he pushes a lot of them and maybe gets one off with some real good snap to it.
Yeah, Lyle wanted this to be over several rounds ago. He didn't get his wish, and now he has to know he's down on the cards. So here we are, round 11, and so it's a long, frustrating, painful night for Ron Lyle. Disappointing. Hey, the referee stepped in and broke him up. Welcome to the show, boss.
Thanks for showing up, Tony Perez. It's only been 11 rounds.
So Lyle had Quarry pressed up against the ropes, and Quarry walked out holding Lyle. I mean, at this point, he's
literally just took a hold of him and pushed him back.
Yeah, and Lyle, the much bigger, stronger guy, just went with it. Just sure, whatever. Poor bastard. He doesn't want to be in there anymore. God, if you're in Lyle's corner, what are you thinking? What are you saying?
You've really got to be just directing him that, Ron, there's no way you can potentially win a decision right now. You have to let your hands go and be busier and just engage him in these exchanges and give it everything you have.
And that's the thing, Quarry still has pep in his step, but he's not circling as much as he was. He's staying in there. At this point, if you can take Quarry's punches,
look at
just
that combination.
Fight ugly.
Double right hand, uppercut, step to the side, left hook, and another right hand inside by Quarry. That's a beautiful mix-up of punches.
Plant your feet and just start winging them at Quarry.
What
else? I mean, at this point, what have you got to lose?
There's two ways to fight a puncher. One way is to not allow them to get inside on you, to control the outside, move, use counter punches. And the other way is to get inside on the puncher and push them back so that they're not able to set their feet and they have to move backward and their punch isn't there. We've seen both of these things done by Quarry in this fight repeatedly. A lot of times both of them done in the same round. Mm-hmm. But he's done it time to time, switching off and doing both of those things. And it's completely flustered Lyle, not allowed him to get his game going, and really just made him very despondent in terms of what am I supposed to be able to do to beat this guy.
We talked about the Brawl for All, both on the Dark Side of the Ring, and then we watched the Bart Gunn, one of the Bart Gunn fights. And we talked about how the idea of fighting in the clinch, and just when you have nothing, when you're out of ideas, don't be afraid to. Oh, I'm sorry. I now remember my train of thought. Bart Gunn talked about on Dark Side of the Ring how what got him the success that he did not employ against Butterbean. Not that I think it would have made a difference, but he was so focused on proper technique that he forgot how to fight, oddly enough. And, of course, Butterbean, who was a power puncher to begin with, certainly not fleet of foot, was able to clobber him. The point that I'm rambling to is that Lyle is a great boxer. He's got a lot of technique. But I think this is a situation where you got to shift gears. Your boxing isn't working. So be a bully. Just, you got to...
Turn it into a street fighter.
Yeah. Step on his feet, go belly to belly with him, throw some insides. Especially if the ref's just going to, if the ref's just hanging out.
Hold and hit you can.
Absolutely.
Lean on him. Make him carry your weight, which is something that Lyle didn't do through the course of this fight, and I don't understand that, but...
Well, I think, you're Bright Lights, big city, Madison Square Garden. This is a step-up fight to a title fight. You want to put your best foot forward, but you've lost. You've lost almost nearly, if not every single round up to this point. And this is where, fight mentality plays a role, fight psychology.
And a big right hand by Quarry inside. That stopped Lyle in his tracks.
You can't, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. All the credit in the world to Lyle for being a good boxer, but it isn't working against this guy. Do something else.
It's not. And Jerry, even though it's the 12th round and you would believe him to be ahead, he's not fighting that way. He's gone inside on Lyle and, again, tried to rough him up and land some strong shots. Now he's doing a little more bouncing on his toes and slipping and throwing some counter punches. But it's a very one-sided fight thus far.
Jerry is hot and sweaty and a little beaten up. But I'll tell you what, he's got a lot of step in his giddy-up.
Yeah, and again, doing a good job of slipping punches and avoiding and just looking for that opportunity to land his on the outside. I would not be shocked if Gil Clancy in his corner and his father, Jack, told him, hey, you don't necessarily need this round. Do what you have to do to win it, but don't take any risks. And it looks as though that's the case of what he's trying to fight. Like, as he's got Lyle tied up on the inside, he dips under both of Lyle's punches, throws a counter and a quick combination afterward, and steps off and steps away.
God, look at him. Look at how much bounce Quarry has. Like, you would think this was early on in the fight, except that both of these guys are soaking wet.
Not to disparage the heavyweights of today, but I will say Tyson Fury does tend to have the ability to do this. Not as fluidly, and certainly not against the same level of opposition, but we've seen him do it. And look at Quarry just light up Lyle from the outside, picking his spots, and not taking anything in return right now.
Oh, yeah. Quarry, look at him. Look at how much confidence Quarry has. Quarry's punching Lyle like right now he's treating him like he's a bum. Like he ain't got nothing for Quarry.
We've seen fights, and we've seen 12-round fights specifically in this era, where a guy seemingly had enough of a lead where it didn't matter if he won the last round or not, so he just went out, coasted, and didn't do anything. Think your Trinidad versus De La Hoya situations. And Quarry is not fighting that way. He's making sure he still wins this round on the card,
right,
or knocks Lyle out, because he just went for broke on a combination with Lyle not throwing back at him.
Yeah, Quarry's fighting like, you know what? The judges are Lyle's mom, dad, and cousin, so fuck it, I'm going to go for broke here.
And that ends the round, and it's very apparent from the body language who you should believe won this fight.
Yeah.
As Quarry immediately put his hands in the air, his handlers ran to him, jumping up and down, were happy. Lyle's handlers basically consoling him in the corner, saying, it's okay, Ronnie.
This was not our night.
This was not your night. It's okay. But this is how it goes. And
you went for the brass ring. You ended up on your face. It happens. Pick yourself up. Dust yourself off. We'll try again in a few more fights.
Better we did this now than when we actually got the fight at the title. But yeah, he basically was. He wasn't just given a boxing lesson. That's an easy quote to throw out there about how this fight went. He was really taken to school on a number of different fronts. On inside fighting, on balance, on how to conserve your energy correctly, on how to finish exchanges. He basically had no answers for Quarry throughout this fight, where if you had scored this 12-zip for Jerry, I wouldn't necessarily have a good argument for you as to why, Lyle won more than 2 rounds.
So the official decision was that Jerry Quarry won by unanimous decision, as he should have. And we're going to do a little extra here, but before we do, let's talk a little bit about what happened shortly after this. Ron Lyle, having took his lickings in this fight, goes on another streak, like just a reign of terror throughout 1970. Jesus Christ, this is another one who fought like almost every month after this in 1973. Takes him 2 months to dust himself off and pick himself up again. He gets a unanimous decision over Bob Stallings, Gregorio Peralta, split decision over Wendell Newton, a unanimous decision.
Obliterates Jurgen Blin, who would later challenge for the heavyweight championship.
Yeah, he does. Gets a unanimous decision over Lou Bailey. KOs Jose Luis Garcia. As you mentioned, Jurgen Blin just destroys him in the second round. He gets a unanimous decision against Larry Middleton. Gets a draw against gets a draw this time against Gregorio Peralta, but we'll just forget about that. And then, and these should sound familiar, he gets wins over Oscar Bonavena, Jimmy Ellis, and then finally he ends the reign of terror in December of 1934 after TKOing Boone Kirkman in the 8th round. He gets a 5-round TKO in Nolans against Al Jones.
Memphis Al Jones.
Yeah. He loses his next fight against Jimmy Young, but that's okay because he's going to face the champion of the world, the greatest of all time, and nearly go the distance with one Muhammad Ali for the WBA, WBC, and ring and lineal heavyweight titles. He gets TKO'd in the 11th.
Yeah, he actually led on every scorecard going into the 11th round. This is after Ali had used the rope-a-dope on Foreman. On Ron Lyle, he said he was going to use a different variation of the same strategy called the robot, where he just had his hands up the whole time and made Lyle punch at his arms and hands. And, Lyle was definitely much the way in this fight we saw him slow down and run out of gas. It definitely happened to him in that fight, but not to the level where it should have been stopped the way it was. It's a controversial stoppage, especially with Lyle leading on all 3 cards at the time. But nonetheless, it was a stoppage, and he lost. And he goes ahead and picks himself up with maybe the best win of his career in his next fight.
Yes, 6-round TKO against Ernie Shavers, which gets him a title fight against George Foreman for the vacant NABF title. And
in what's
he gets
probably
KO'd
still
in
the
fifth.
most epic heavyweight brawl ever.
Well, maybe someday we'll have to look at that. But, Pat, you sent me a fight here, some bonus content. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at another Jerry Quarry fight before we end this evening. This is going to be Jerry Quarry versus Ernie Shavers. Now, why are we looking at this fight? Give us a quick update as to what we're looking at here and why we're looking at it.
A little bit of bonus content. The hardest hitting heavyweight of all time, Ernie Shavers, who is well on his way to a heavyweight title fight, gets matched up with Jerry, who is again considered past his best, not looking so great lately. He needs that one key win over a name heavyweight, does Shavers, in order to justify that heavyweight title fight after coming off of a first-round KO of Jimmy Ellis with a beautiful uppercut. Shavers coming into this fight is 45-2. His last loss was, 4 years ago to Ron Stander in a fight where he ran out of gas. This is a very different kind of Jerry Quarry fight and a very different kind of Ernie Shavers fight than we're used to. And it actually it winds up ending the relationship between Don King and Ernie Shavers for a little while.
Okay, well, this isn't going to be a very long fight at all. This is December 14th, 1973. And so, again, up-and-comer heavy hitter Ernie Shavers versus Old Velvet Pants, Jerry Quarry, who has given up said Velvet Pants. And Ernie Shavers should win this one and march on his way to a title shot. So here we go. Let's see what happens. What does history tell us? Round 1. Of course, Jerry Quarry, our man of the hour, wearing his Kelly Green shorts. Very nice.
And Ernie Shavers, the hardest punching heavyweight in history.
Harder than Mike Tyson?
Absolutely.
Wow, that is the claim to fame.
There is no heavyweight in history with the one-punch power of Ernie Shavers, who's immediately going after Jerry very hard.
Well, Jesus, if you've got, cannonball punching power, why not? And Jerry Quarry, still a lot of pep in his step. A lot of, he's making Shavers work for it.
He is. He's a little softer than he was in the Lyle fight, though. And that's because he signed a distribution deal with Miller.
Those pants look soft. Is he wearing velvet pants?
They look to be velvet, yes.
Oh,
and
that's why this fight ends the way that it does. So it's got to be the pants, Pat.
Shavers tagged him, but Jerry, not going anywhere, landed a counter right afterward. But Shavers landed some bombs in that exchange. And he landed a good left to the body that time on Jerry.
See that I like. So Shavers put a hand behind the head, which you can't do, and he did it anyway, and he landed a couple of shots, just dug him right into Quarry's face.
And Ernie gets under most of Jerry's punches in that exchange. But now Jerry's going to back up to the ropes. A little bit of free swinging from Quarry here.
Yeah, Quarry's just tagging him. Unloading lefts and rights, uppercuts. Shaver, big swing to try to get out of there.
Ernie with two good left hands, but Jerry's relentless and keeps going at him.
He just walked through those.
Big right hand, and
Quarry
Shavers is hurt.
Quarry says, nuts to your punching power, pal. Oh, my goodness. Quarry going crazy. Just landing at will. The man's just... This is a fight between Joe Quarry and a mannequin.
And
Look at that.
Shavers is not defending himself, and he hits the deck on a right hand.
On his tuchus.
Arthur Mercanti going to give him a count. And Shavers does not look all the way with it. Arthur Mercanti gonna let him go. Shavers is resting his hands on the ropes. Not a good idea.
I was going to say,
Jerry Quarry rushes in with some left hooks and a right hand. And Arthur Mercanti is going to stop it.
Arthur Mercanti knows that Shaver has lost math. Jesus Christ. Wow. Did half the boxing community want to shoot Jerry Quarry?
Yes. Yes, and actually, so as we talked about, this fight was supposed to lead to Ernie Shavers had he won as he was supposed to. We'll say, had he won that fight as he was supposed to, he was going to go on and fight for the heavyweight championship against George Foreman. There's a book about the life of Jerry Quarry called Hard Luck, and the foreword is written by George Foreman himself. George specifically says in that he actively avoided fighting Jerry Quarry because he knew that had Quarry fought the right fight against him, he would lose. And he recognized the potential of Jerry being able to do to him what he potentially did to Ron Lyle or to Ernie Shavers for that matter, based on the talent level he had. So when you have a guy like George talking about that he actively avoided you, that's pretty big praise to get for a guy who never won the title and a guy who was known as, coming up short in, his bigger moments in the boxing ring against Ali, against Frazier, and even against Jimmy Ellis, in those times. But again, I think what we saw was a good illustration of what endeared Jerry to so many fight fans of the time. His style, the potential he had, the capability he had, and just the way he went about his business. Jerry was a huge star at the time, even for a guy who didn't win the heavyweight title. Do you remember a show called The Superstars, Mark?
No.
Well, The Superstars was a competition show in the 70s that was based around athletes from various sports competing in all these different events. Jerry was a regular on The Superstars. It wasn't a common thing. They only had a couple boxers here and there compete on The Superstars, but Jerry Quarry was one of them and did pretty well I think he finished 4th overall in his heat. In events that boxers don't really compete with. Boxers didn't do a lot of weightlifting and things of that nature, but Jerry went ahead and competed and finished 4th in his heat. And, it was pretty impressive to see a guy who was as heavy as him and didn't do the things he did go out and represent boxing so admirably and, compete just in those things he wasn't competent in doing. He just went ahead and did it anyway.
So let me ask you. So Jerry competes. I mean, as we're talking about this, there's a lot of really stiff competition in the 60s and 70s. Some of the greats, and we've already discussed them. I mean, Muhammad Ali is part of this era. Joe Frazier's part of this era. We talked about Jimmy Ellis. And so my question to you is, George Foreman. Here's the thing. Jerry Quarry, born too late? Born too early? Do you think there's an era where had we moved his timeline this way or that way, he becomes heavyweight champion of the world?
It's tough to say. I know that him, probably more than anybody else, is responsible for why we eventually had a cruiserweight division formed. I know a lot of people point to him as the main guy as to why we got that in place. If he's born earlier, he potentially is fighting somebody like a Sonny Liston, and I don't like Jerry in that fight.
No, Sonny Liston was the devil.
So I don't necessarily love him in that fight. I don't know that I love him against a guy like, say, Rocky Marciano. I think he had the capability of beating Rocky, but I think he ends up engaging Rocky toe-to-toe, and that could go either way at that point. If he's born later in the 80s, when we see the title tends to split more often than not, he probably can pick up a trinket title, beating somebody like a Mike Dokes, a Mike Weaver, that type of thing. But, it's not the same as winning the actual heavyweight title. And he's going to be competing as a cruiserweight not long after that anyway. I think Jerry fought in the right era for everything, to be honest, because, again, I think it's better to be one of the better guys in the best era than the best guy in a weaker era. And even then, I don't know that Jerry necessarily would have been the best guy in a weaker era.
I think Jerry Quarry's, story, if told on the silver screen, is one of the guy, who he never got the title, but boy did he wreck a lot of other people's opportunities to get said title. I think somebody needs to tell his story. I think Jerry Quarry is a really interesting fighter.
I think you should read the book Hard Luck. I would highly recommend it, and there's much more cinematic stuff from Jerry's youth than you would probably believe if I told you.
Okay. Well, Hollywood, I know there's always an intern listening. I got a chance to talk to Chris Sheehan about the history of podcasting and blogging, my own personal history, and he asked me, if you could do one thing, just any crazy thing, what would you do? And I was like, I just want to pitch an idea for a movie. Just sit down and give me 5 to 10 minutes and let me pitch something. So here's my pitch. I want to tell the Jerry Quarry story. Jerry Quarry needs a biopic. Do
you want to laugh a little bit?
Sure.
So I think and most of the people who listen to this at some point know, I was a amateur boxer in my youth for a long time. And when I was in the gym was largely, Latino, black, a lot of guys, who were not Caucasian. I was one of the few who was Caucasian in there trying to fight. And a lot of the guys used to kind of jokingly refer to me as Jerry Quarry.
Okay.
So later on, apparently, I guess there was a thought process behind trying to actually make a Jerry Quarry movie. And it was one of 2 times I had actually been scouted at the gym for a potential product, one of which is I would have played Jerry Quarry in his youth in this movie.
Wow.
It did not come to fruition, but there was apparently the thought process behind potentially doing it. The other was a TV show that was called Ravens, about 2 brothers who were basketball players in North Carolina with some sort of sibling rivalry or what have you. That show turned into One Tree Hill.
Oh, really?
I was scouted for that, did not go any further than that. But also, I will tell you, my first memory of Jerry Quarry is not watching him fight. My first memory of Jerry Quarry is my dad openly weeping when the news broke that Jerry Quarry had passed away on January 3rd, if I remember correctly, in 1999. Because, it was one of those things where I guess if you were just, an Irish guy during that era, Jerry was basically your folk hero who went in and, just whatever. He represented you as, a young Irish man just trying to do your best. And so, people just latched on to him. And he wasn't even my dad's favorite fighter. My dad's favorite fighter was Joe Frazier. But there was just this unparalleled love and, not sympathy, but just this relation to Jerry Quarry where my dad, he was listening to the Tony Page radio show here in New York. And Tony Page, who worked for ESPN and a couple other places, is a big boxing fan. And he reported Jerry Quarry's death. My dad just openly weeping that Jerry Quarry had died. My uncle calling him about 10 minutes after he heard it and talking about it and them just weeping. I was kept home from school the next day. They acted like a president had died.
Wow. That's a nice story, Pat. So if nobody else, we'll celebrate Jerry Quarry here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. But we're going to end the show for tonight, this heavyweight boxing extra on Jerry Quarry versus Ron Lyle, and a cup of coffee with Eddie Shavers. My goodness gracious. If you have enjoyed our little extra tonight, you liked hearing me and Pat call the fights, check out our long-form series on the history of the Lineal Heavyweight Championship. We have done shows on the aforementioned WBA heavyweight title. We've done the Cassius Clay years. We will be doing the Muhammad Ali years in short order. Our next show is actually on Joe Frazier, which will take place. We will record that on June 4th, 2 days after my birthday. And then we'll get back to Muhammad Ali. And we're going all the way through modern times with this, but we started in the early 1900s. We talked about Rocky Marciano and Floyd Patterson, all the greats, and all the ones in between. So if you have an opportunity to, and you haven't yet, give these a listen, please go ahead and do so. You can find them all as part of the Radulich and Broadcasting Network podcast under the W2M Network umbrella. In the meantime, in between time, if you don't like boxing, but you somehow listen to this anyway, myself and Alexis Haina looked at the Three Caballeros Ride Again comic, which was part of the Don Rosa, Uncle Scrooge, and Donald Duck Library, Volume 9. Myself and Chris Bailey talked about a subject that Pat really loves, All Elite Wrestling.
Yeah, I really do.
AEW, Double or Nothing. Hear me and Chris explain why this entire show was booked by Bugs Bunny. And then myself and Alexis Haina did a TV party for the Legends of the Three Caballero series, which is currently on Disney+, which was originally exclusively aired in the Philippines. Next week, Alexis Haina and I will be doing a source material live on Catwoman, When in Rome.
Oh, good Lord.
I've had this on the calendar for a year. And on my birthday, myself and Robert Winfrey will be doing a TV party for Devilman Crybaby, because he said it'll break my soul, and I said challenge accepted. So I'm going to give that a watch this weekend, and we're going to talk about it, and I'm either going to say, I don't know what you're crying about, you pansy, or I'm going to say, I don't know why you made me watch this, I hate you. And he's going to say, now you know how I feel. Jesse Starcher will be back. We got a review, The Metal Hammer of Doom shall ride again. And we're going to be reviewing Ailstorm, Curse of the Crystal Coconut.
I like some Ailstorm here and there.
Yeah, this was a good album. Not as good as their last one, but still very, very good. And then the aforementioned Chapter 8 on Smokin' Joe Frazier. If you like,
Sharp as a razor, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Ask the butterfly who won. You'll see.
Chris Bailey loved you on Dark Side of the Ring. Pat and I talked about that a few weeks ago. And said, we need to have Pat Mullin as part of the Podsman. And I said, Pat Mullin hates wrestling and everybody in it. But if you're dating to join us, we will be reviewing NXT TakeOver in your house on June 9th, and then back.
We're in your house?
Yes.
We're in your house?
They're not going to give away a house, though, so it's not the same.
They're not. But you know what? I do love some of those guys on NXT. I probably would be more than inclined to join in on that.
Fantastic. And then almost finally, we're going to review Backlash on the 16th. But for sure, if you love Pat Mullin, and I know you do, we've got Fuller House Season 5 Part 2 on deck June 11th. But Pat...
Oh boy. I don't want it to end.
That's not all. Pat, we have an opportunity to do a watch-along when they figure out who's going to be streaming it, and I don't know why this is a thing, why they just don't put it on IWTV like they did the last one. But whatever. Pat, ICW New York, Deathmatch Drive-In, June 27th. Come on, Pat.
Oh, Lord. God help me. Who did they announce as the first match? Somebody with a prison name and somebody with a name after a serial killer, right?
Schlack versus like John Wayne Gacy or somebody.
Yes, that's exactly what I just said.
Yeah. Come on, we were supposed to do the first one, but you were working, or you were on a date, or you were helping immigrants cross the border. I don't know what you were doing, but you bailed out on me on that one. Come on, man. Deathmatch Drive-In. You got to do it.
I'll see what I can do.
All right. That's as good a commitment as any. I won't make you do the bare knuckle show the night before, though. I know where the lines are. All right.
No, we're saving up for the Mike Tyson bare knuckle debut.
Everyone is saving up for the bare knuckle Mike Tyson debut. Even Chris Bailey was like, I don't even do commentaries, but I'll do it for that one. Yes.
Yeah, I can't wait to bet against him.
All right. I've laid out the schedule. I've talked about some of the things I'm going to have you on. Are you doing anything else with anybody else?
Nope.
Fantastic. In that case,
I'm a Radulich exclusive.
Oh boy, I have you all to myself. All right, folks, it's been a blast. Thank you, Pat, for doing this with me tonight. For the rest of you, be well, be safe, and behave.